That's not true.
What it actually is true, and I refer you to Wikipedia, Mr. Ambassador.
Wikipedia,
My question is very simple. I'm going to wait patiently for an answer. Does this right derive from religious affiliation or from genetics?
And I would say it's both. But I would also say that when you said the Christians were kicked out, Tucker, Christianity is growing in Israel.
Okay, but
and there is a big lie that goes out there. But no, let me finish this, because I keep hearing that Christians are really not treated well in Israel. That's just that's a lie.
Well, there are lots of different. There are lots of different.
There were 34,000 Christians in Israel in 1948. There are 184,000 Christians here today.
And by Israel, what are you counting?
You talking about the land?
What territory are you counting? You're counting about Israel proper? Or are you counting
about Israel
the West
proper
Bank as well and Gaza? I mean, what do you, when you say Israel, those numbers apply to what landmass?
It would be in Israel proper.
Okay.
There are 184,000. Now, I'll tell you where Christians are not doing very well. They're not doing very well in the Muslim-controlled countries.
Yes, they do fine there. What the hell? Wait a second. I think the screen capture just basically went mute for some reason. Oh. Bullshit. What the hell's going on? Boy, there's really a lot of chicanery going on here, fellas. Like, I'm not getting it here. Okay. Where the fuck is the sound?
Something wrong, and I think it's important to acknowledge it. There are many more Christians in Qatar than there are in Israel. Fact.
How many?
Now you caught me. I don't know. I can look at my phone, but I was just there, and there are many more. Like, whatever. But I just want to get to the point that forms the basis of this whole conversation, which is who has a right to the land?
Yeah.
And you said it's a mixture of religion and ethnicity, because as I noted, and you.
Yeah, they're not playing around. Like, there's some serious chicanery going on here. I think maybe I'm gonna comment a little bit less. Maybe I was getting a little bit too colorful there. But I'm gonna just let them do their thing as best I can, so it doesn't get whacked again.
Many of the founders, maybe the majority of the founders of modern Israel, did not believe in God at all. So they were not religious Jews. They weren't religious at all. They were atheists. They said they were atheists. I believe them. So that suggests it's ethnic. But it's also true, as you well know, because there's a famous court case about this, that ethnic Jews who convert to Christianity do not have the right of return. That was settled by the Israeli Supreme Court. I'm very confused. So that would suggest it's not ethnicity, because you invalidate your Jewishness by converting to Christianity?
There are a number of Messianic Jews who live in Israel.
Yeah, but they can't claim birthright.
I'm aware of that
number.
But you're not contesting what I'm saying, because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family ties.
It's ethnic.
There is a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make aliyah, to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to the land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
But I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are you
Jewish
saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a right, a legal right to return? Because I
know that they do. Whether, when you say, do they have a right to return, do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but I know that these are people who are Christian, and they came here, made aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights here.
Absolutely.
And a passport.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
Nick isn't doing a show tonight.
I know that there are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course.
And
but do you have a right to come and say, I am an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity, therefore I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere I want. Galilee.
Tommy Robinson is on Tim Pool right now, and I was watching that. It's just as good as this. Although Tommy Robinson, I guess he does the same thing Nick does, tries to imbue you with a sense of rebellion against the oppressive structures of the modern West. Like, don't give up your guns, Americans. But it has like the opposite effect. It's demoralizing.
Anywhere.
That's why I didn't choose
I'm returning to the land of my forefathers. I have a legal right in the state of Israel, even though I've converted to Christianity. You're saying that's true?
I'm saying I know people who've done it. Now, can I tell you what the law specifically is? I'm not sure, because
it's really
I'm a Christian. I don't have any Jewish roots, so therefore I cannot quote you the law. If you want me to do that, I'll look it up.
Well, it really matters, because you're saying, in fact, people in the United States are being called anti-Semites. A lot of them, including me, because they somehow don't believe that Israel has a right to this land.
Do you think Israel has a right to this land?
No, you haven't defined what the land is, and you haven't defined who Israel is. So I really don't know.
It is the land they're living in now, the borders that they have.
The borders are moving. The borders have moved in the last year.
Yeah.
What do you mean the borders have moved?
They are taken
the 1967 borders. I'm including, the
East
West
Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria.
What are the borders of Judea and Samaria?
Well, you basically take the Jordan River, and it's west of the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, to the Lebanon border. And Israel did have control of the Sinai. They gave that to Egypt. They had control of it.
Right.
They gave it away in 1979 in the peace agreement.
But, okay.
So
whatever you call it, the land that was taken from Jordan in 1967, you call it Judea and Samaria. There's a significance to that I don't fully understand. I'm not against it.
It's the biblical
know what it's the biblical
terms. 80% of the Bible happened in Judea and Samaria.
But we've also established that the Bible gives Jews the right to occupy the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. I'm very confused by why we've shrunk the land and why we're
Israel has shrunk the land.
I win.
They have made that decision. Okay. That's why they gave away Gaza. They gave away the Sinai.
Now's the part
They've
for
given
the
away
real
a lot
question.
of things.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean, maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right
why
to live here and who doesn't,
they do
according
that?
to the
Why wouldn't they
theology
want
that
to
you
do
yourself
that?
just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Well, you've just...
That's up to...
You've just said...
I mean,
do they? Does Israel... will they take
you just told
They
me,
can make Aliyah. They may not have
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, I'm trying to keep track, that it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should, I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people.
You're right. I mean, at this point, it's they're just they're muddying the water at this point. They refuse to just unequivocally say stuff. They want to have a shield, hide behind, certain things. But they also want to be able to add more and change and do this and that. So yeah, I'm purposely being kind of vague.
To whom God gave this land.
It's really
from the Nile
dishonest what they're doing.
And so if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are?
Right. And the Palestinians, we know those people were the occupants of that land. They were there 100 years ago.
And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
This is a good point.
Could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But the point
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here.
No,
because you've just told me that they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
They don't
there's a
define
whole
anything.
Legal.
I mean, and that's how they get away with constantly adding more. You know, it's this shape shifting, moving the goalposts constantly. It's really gross.
In Israel on that question. And my understanding is that certain types of modern Judaism qualify a person and other types don't. Is that your understanding? I don't believe that people converted, and I could have this wrong, but I know people who've faced this personally, know people. I don't believe people who've converted in a Reform synagogue have the right of return. I don't think that, because I know people who've married into Jewish families and they find out they don't have the right of return.
That's like saying that Walter from The Big Lebowski has the right to, he has the right to, he doesn't have the right. Like, if he were a real person, we all know that guy wouldn't be allowed to claim Israeli citizenship because he married a Jewish woman and then converted. Like, although my ex-girlfriend, when I was 19, her dad was Italian, but he converted. I mean, I would imagine he would be able to if he was going there with his wife. I mean, I don't know their laws.
That is perplexing to me.
Yeah, I know, my experience is a little different than yours. I know people who have definite Jewish connections, family relations, but now they're Christian. Some are not necessarily practicing Jews. They're not, they're more secular Jews, as you've discussed, but they come back here.
Okay, I'm not against that. I'm just wondering, since you began this conversation by asking me, did I think they had a right to come here?
Yeah, that's what
my question was, on what basis do they have the right?
Yeah.
And you said because God granted it to them.
And I also said because that there should be a land where Jews can live in peace and safety.
And I asked you what a Jew was, and you couldn't answer it. You said it partly is religious, but doesn't have to be. It's partly genetic, but it doesn't have to be. And so that you can see why I'm confused.
I think I was very clear that being Jewish is an identification either through blood or through faith that you're Jewish. It may be that you're a blood Jew, but you don't necessarily practice Judaism, just like there are people who say they're Christian, but they don't do a thing to demonstrate what Christian
There are a lot of bad Christians, including me some of the time, a lot of the time. But I don't have a right to real estate on the basis of my claim of Christianity.
You don't have a right to real estate if you're talking about a specific parcel. But if you're talking about a land, I think what we're talking about is
that's all I'm saying.
And there was a designation to the family of nations of the world that there would be a Jewish homeland. Let's get to that point, because I think you've taken us on several trails here, and I'm not sure we can follow them all. But is there a reason that the Jewish people that represent, and I want to get back to this because you didn't let me finish a while ago, they represent 0.2% of the world's population. In the entirety of the world, there are about 16 million Jews total, and 8 million of them live here. The rest live mostly in New York or South Florida and a few other places.
Okay.
So this is a small population of people. They have connection to this land, historically, biblically.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
If Bibi's family, we know they lived in Eastern Europe. There's no evidence they ever lived here. He's not religious.
But
in what sense?
How do we know that?
Do you have his family tree? No.
A lot of these people, they're sophists. They're very good at twisting and obfuscating. They're damn good at it. They really are.
We don't.
Do you?
He doesn't. So no one does. That's the point.
But
so how do we know that he has any connection to this land at all?
And if there has been a practice of Judaism and a connection to the language, the Bible, the land.
His ancestors didn't. He doesn't practice Judaism in any rigorous way. His ancestors didn't live here. They didn't speak the language, and there's no evidence they ever lived here. So on what basis does he have a right to be here?
Very much speaks the language. He has fought for the land. His family has fought for the land.
Dodging a
I'm not
very
dodging.
obvious question, which is, where does this right come from?
Like, yeah, we know Benjamin Netanyahu has been a soldier or a despicable politician since like the 70s. He was on Bill Buckley's firing line in the 70s as a young man. Disgusting human being. Okay, we know he's fought for this nation state, or this state, basically. But that's besides the point. I don't even know if even mentioning his name probably isn't a good idea, but you know, does his lineage, does it, bequeath this birthright on him?
And the reason it's meaningful
is
because there are a lot of people in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who, through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years. We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans,
it's like another hour,
pre-Islam. We don't know that. A lot of them we know have been Christians for 2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
Oh
by
my
what
God.
definition?
They're Jewish by their
But how do we know they have any
ethnicity.
connection
They're
to
Jewish
the Jews
by their
of the,
faith. They're
of the
Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language.
Oh
Jewish
my
by the
goodness.
connection to the Torah.
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors, ever lived here? How do we know that?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime Minister of Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
Well, it's on the basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
Yeah, there are many others.
I'm
Josephus.
totally unable to process
Plutarch.
what you're trying to get at. It goes back, do Jewish people have any land on this planet that should be theirs to
I
give
feel
them?
that way about all peoples. I feel that way about Jewish peoples. I feel that way about...
Okay,
Kurds.
then you don't
There
mind them
used to be
having
a
this
Kurdish
little
Kurdistan.
Is
sliver
there
of
any
land,
country, let me
right?
ask you this bluntly, is there any country that European peoples have a right to exclusively?
Ooh, how about that?
I think they have
Dickface,
attained
you scumbag.
their land through conquest. I mean, let's
Through
ask
conquest,
Have
ourselves.
the Britons
really?
attained
The
their land through
Romans?
conquest?
Really?
No, they've always been there.
The Romans, the Greeks, we've had all these
let's speak.
civilizations.
Let's speak. Well, you could certainly say that here. The Romans controlled this, as you know, and they expelled
But they
all
don't
the Jews
anymore.
from Jerusalem. Amen.
Yeah.
I don't want them to control it.
Hope not.
I'm anti-Roman. Okay, we're on the same page.
Okay.
But my question is very simple. Is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews,
Because
including
they're
people whose
currently being
ancestors
screwed
lived
out of their
in
land.
Eastern Europe, possess here? The Britons, we know, the British people, the Scandinavian people, the Irish people, their ancestors have been there for thousands of years. That's provable through genetic testing. Do they have a right to their land exclusively?
Is anyone saying they don't?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes.
Who's saying that?
No one will say they will. And I'm asking you, do they have that right?
And I'm not sure what that question involves.
Because you're saying
no
the
one is
Jewish people
trying
do.
to force them out of their land, of their.
No, he's saying you're saying that they have a positive right to their land in the Middle East, those people. Do the Irish have that positive right where they can claim that morally that land is there? Ireland is theirs. Is that theirs? Because you're saying this other group of people has a positive right, but you're not willing to say that about anybody else. Like, and it's crazy how he's equivocating and like shifty about Europe. Oh, conquest and this and that. Like, bro, what are you talking about? What conquest? You're trying to say that the English, they haven't been there for thousands of years. Like every people's pretty much, push somebody else off of the land. But it's weird that he's through conquest and this and that. Well, they did the same thing with that part of the Middle East. It's sickening.
Homes But here,
Wait, hold on.
you have
just,
people.
why won't you answer that question?
See?
Because I just did.
Oh, so the Irish people have the same right to their land that the
I don't know
Jews
that they
have
have
to.
a biblical connection.
Okay,
But
I see.
I'm a Bible believer.
okay.
So that is
But it's also
important to me.
it's also a principle, and that is, and you've said it 15 times.
Sometimes people have land because they were able to attain it through war. They were able to obtain it when it was challenged.
I understand that. There's all
so-
kinds of consequences, but we can't say that about the
the
Irish.
world borders
Hold on.
change all the time.
Not actually, the borders of the island of England have not changed,
not
nor
Have
But the
Ireland.
islands of
governance
Ireland.
does.
Those are just two examples. So
Yeah.
you've got the indigenous people there. Do they have a moral
guy's a
right to
scumbag,
that
man.
as their homeland?
This dude is a scumbag.
and I think they would probably say, yes, we do, because
They-
we have ancient
What do
history
you
to it.
think?
What do you
I've
think?
never thought about whether
Now
they
that I'm raising the question, and you've spent a lot of time
He-
thinking
he-
about the right of
Yeah.
the Jewish
Wow.
people to their homeland, do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
as long as they can defend it.
Oh my
And as long as
God!
they- you know,
wow.
as
As long as they can defend it.
But Tucker,
He's
here's
not
the point.
saying that
I'm
about
telling
anything.
you.
Wait, hold on. Now you just flipped category. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling
As
you,
long
there-
as they can defend it.
and you're
And if they can't
you're not
defend it, they
allowing
lose
me
the
to
right.
tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical as well as an ethnic and
That
a
gives you the
historical.
moral right
So
to
you can take
shame
any
those
one, but
people.
if you add them all together,
And to
biblical,
slander
historical,
them.
and ethnic, you have a very strong case that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years.
You're not defining.
And you
it.
can also
This
look in the
dude,
archaeology.
He keeps refusing to define who those people are. Oh, they have a biblical connection, but you haven't drilled down on who the people in this group. I don't want to say the name, but who the people in this group, who that entails. Who does that? Who are those people? He keeps. He's just. He's like a buoy, just floating. He's not in one set position. He's just kind of moving around, moving the goalposts as Tucker, tries to get him on these points and try and pin him down. He just keeps he's such a snake, man. I thought, he really presents this aw shucks affect, like he used to have that show. He really did that whole down home, aw shucks American kind of a affect, and it's an act, obviously. This dude is an absolutely he is a clever and shifty political operative. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he's doing it on purpose. He's doing it for political reasons to benefit somebody. It's disgusting.
The stones
It's
cry
so
out.
disgusting.
Okay.
Have you been to the city of
This
David?
guy is.
for
I
example?
have.
This
Okay.
is evil.
So you know then that
And I love it.
it's an amazing
I
place.
agree.
It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history
Pretty
because
great.
it's stunning. And they still continue to find things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer.
Yeah,
Much
they go back to
thousands of years
Cheddar
longer.
Man.
Stonehenge is
Thousands
3,000
of
years older
years.
than any building
Older
built by
than the Bible.
the descendants of Abram in this country. And so
Far
I just,
older.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an
United
island, so we know
It's
what the
an
lines
island,
are.
yeah.
I'm saying, but are those
scum.
lines
This is guys.
Are those rooted-
diabolical?
in something
That was the
other
word I
than
was-
the historical connection?
That was the word I was looking for. This guy is a diabolical political activist. This is diabolical.
Then they should have it. But
And
that's
they have a
question.
right to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't,
I mean, what you're saying there, Touchgrass, that is the point. It's like everybody else has to be willing to die for their claim on their land. They have to be willing to defend it to the death as their claim, as their land, as their birthright. They have to defend that with their lives, except for this country, this special country. And he won't say why that is, and he's telling us that we have to defend their right. They don't have to defend it to the death. We have to defend it to the death. And with our wall, it's just so disgusting. This is diabolical.
defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think you're really going off the trail.
I just want to know if these
No.
principles apply universally or if they only apply to the people of Israel. And my answer appears to be just the people of Israel. They're the only ones with these rights, and I just
That's
reject
it.
that.
I didn't say that.
You got it, brother.
But I'm saying we are talking about Israel. We're in Israel. We're talking about Christian Zionism because you've made some disparaging statements about Christian Zionists. You've apologized for them, for which I appreciate. And now we're trying to define Christian and Zionist. And it seems like we've gone way, way off of that.
I'm trying to get, as you suggested as a former debater at the outset, I'm trying to get to terms and a common understanding of what the words mean.
And the terms,
and I'm no closer to that than I...
It's funny because he, at the beginning, he said, you know, when I went in debate class and this, you have to define the terms. So, and it's funny because that betrays him right now. He realizes, oh shit, that's betraying me. I'm trying to play dumb here when I said at the beginning that I'm not dumb. I know how to do this. I know exactly what I'm doing. It's funny. He betrayed himself by saying that.
I was when I began.
You're not closer to the term Christian, what that means?
I think it's someone who follows Jesus. And that's my next question. There are a lot of Christians in the West Bank, and there were a fair amount of Christians in Gaza, and some of them have been killed.
There were 5,000 in Gaza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two different churches were hit by the IDF. Christian Hospital was hit 7 times by the IDF. And I don't understand.
They were not hit 7 times. There were different, I know. And one of the times it was a rocket that was shot by Hamas, and all the news agencies reported that the IDF shot the rocket. They
Did
said
the IDF ever hit the hospital or the churches?
They did.
Why?
Accidentally, and they apologized for it. And it was very unfortunate. But they also, you got to remember, there were times Hamas often hid caches of arms under hospitals.
Were you bothered by the fact that the IDF hit Christians?
I'm bothered that anyone got killed in Gaza, but you know why I'm bothered?
You're a Christian minister,
because here's the thing.
You can't say that the Christians are Islamic extremists.
No, but I can say that
I would
the
expect
reason
you
that
to side with the Christians over the secular government of Israel.
But I would look at it even more broadly. I would ask you this. Why was there so much suffering and continues to be suffering in Gaza? It's because Hamas, which could have built a Singapore, built a Haiti. They have a landmass the size of Las Vegas. They built tunnels underneath that are larger than the London Underground, over 500 miles of tunnels. They didn't build it to move people from one hospital to the other, one marketplace to the other, but to hide terrorists, to hide weaponry. And on October the 7th, they went over there and they massacred 1,200 civilians. Massacred, mutilated, humiliated
individuals.
You're never going to get me to...
What's disgusting about this is individuals did that. It wasn't a government that broke into Israel and did that. It was some psychopaths, some individuals, just like individuals attacked the World Trade Center. Individuals. That wasn't an operation by a state. It was individuals, terrorists. And then the group he's defending, they are a state. And they literally, not individuals, a state massacred 70,000 innocent people. And this guy will pretend that that's not a bad thing.
Hamas, sorry.
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
But
ever.
I'm telling you.
I'm appalled by it. How many civilians have been killed by the IDF in Gaza?
We don't know. You know why we don't know?
What's your guess?
Well, the only numbers we have come from this dubious entity called the Gaza Health Ministry. You know who that is?
I trust
them.
them.
Why does Israel have a...
I trust them as much as I trust the people he's representing here. Straight up.
Some kind of count on it.
We also know that a lot of the people who were killed were, in fact, warriors. Sadly...
How many kids were killed?
We don't know.
What's your guess?
I don't know.
That's insane.
I'm sure it was thousands. And it's thousands too many.
Of kids were killed.
Some of the kids who were killed had been recruited.
They're children. They can't consent.
Kids as young as 4.
Yeah, they were forced to. They're children. How this guy is so evil. He's willing to sacrifice anybody. Christians, children, women, doesn't matter. He's willing to sacrifice them on this hill so that these people can expand, basically.
14
They were
years
terror
old.
kids. Do you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there
It's
were kids as young as
disgusting.
14 that were
It is
recruited to be
disgusting.
Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
How do you
It's a
feel about the
horrible-
kids being killed?
I think it's horrible.
Oh.
You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people were slaughtered by
couldn't agree
people
more.
across the border,
I
and
couldn't agree more.
252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
Couldn't agree more.
And then when
Are all lives equal?
When Hamas could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't,
Man.
leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I hope
I'm
not.
not pro-Hamas. I'm
I hope
totally
not.
opposed to slaughtering innocents, whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much
man.
larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said, how many children have been
war is a
killed?
horrible thing, period. And we don't know. We know that a lot of the numbers were reported by
But you said you
Hamas.
think thousands
A
of
lot of
children
the
have been killed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know why they got killed? Because Hamas would gather up the children and put them in the targets. Do you know what Israel does? They send
guys still
page
there?
messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop leaflets and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that. The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel does that in order to prevent, let me
saying
finish
that-
this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties.
They do it as
What
cover
Hamas does,
so that they can
They
say, what you're saying.
oh, this is the target.
So that you can say what you're saying now, and you can hide behind that and make it seem like that's a moral thing to do. I didn't see any flyers. I haven't seen. I don't know what I don't know if he's saying truthful stuff right now or not.
And by gunpoint, they push people into those various places. And then when people get killed, they say, look, Israel just slaughtered these people, even though it was Hamas who moved them into harm's way, knowing that it was going to put them in a place of danger and death and destruction. And they do that because they don't care. You say you care about life, I care about life.
It's interesting
Tucker,
that
they don't care about
I'm
life.
not saying that
They
Hamas does. You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. I'm
Good.
I'm anti-Hamas.
You've said that 3 times, and I believe it.
Your dig at the United States is very revealing
Why is it revealing?
because your priorities are very clear.
No.
Yes, they are.
No,
yes,
no,
they
no.
are. And as an American, permit me
They
a
are
moment
clear.
Okay.
of outrage, because I said many civilians have been killed,
Yeah.
and you said right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government,
It's
which
my
I
country.
consider.
What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is it
What flag
so-
am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's
a
my
US
flag. It's who I serve.
So why the dig at the United States in the
it's
middle?
not a dig
It
at
was.
them. No.
At
You've
them?
totally misrepresented
What did
that.
you mean by that?
Why won't
I
he
did
even?
not
He's
take
not
a
saying
dig
us.
at the U.S. What I'm saying
You
is,
said the IDF is more humane than the U.S.
I'm saying
military. Do you
No,
believe
I'm
that?
not. I'm just saying that Israel takes steps that we don't take, and no other country that I'm aware of takes to try to prevent. Because no matter what Israel does, they're going to get accused of genocide.
That may be right, and
I'm just telling you that they.
But then let me ask you on that question.
Okay.
You know, that's such a politically loaded.
But I
term.
resent the idea that you think that I'm not loyal to the U.S.
Nobody
or that I
cares
somehow-
how you feel.
Look, I'm not saying you're not loyal. I'm merely noting what you just said, which
Yeah.
was that the IDF takes greater pains than the U.S. Our military does to spare civilian lives. And I guess my question is, when was the last time the U.S. military killed this many civilians? Do you know?
Well, it could have been Nagasaki, Hiroshima, could have been Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't know the full number.
And I think most Christians would say all of those things were atrocities because innocents were killed in large numbers, and we don't believe in that. And so that's not really a defense, is it? I
War
don't
is
know.
a horrible thing, Tucker, and there are people who end up, unfortunately, being killed that shouldn't have been. I would tell you that I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out
Warriors.
the atrocities
That
October
14-year-old Hamas operative.
That blows my mind. He calls them warriors. They're terrorists. And why won't he call them terrorists? People would have called them terrorists, or they called them terrorists when it happened. But they're trying to. This is history revision. He's calling them warriors now so that they can justify state action, murdering millions of people, or thousands, 70,000. And half of the population there are children. You know, he's straight up taking part in historical revision. It's just, oh my God, like this is such a nakedly disgusting man.
How do you feel about their deaths?
If they participated in that, then
warriors.
God help
Are
them.
you kidding me?
I'm telling you,
what does
Tucker,
that mean, God help
I don't know that they were 14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, what would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved,
I would
and
not
beaten?
kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I would never make
I'm
excuses
just telling
for killing
you.
children either.
And I'm not talking about targeting children. I'm talking about.
You told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they're working for Hamas.
I'm telling you.
My question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death a crushing tragedy?
If he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage
is to kill
I'm
that
telling
child.
You, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, and a lot of innocent
I think
people
I'm the one
die,
who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't.
I'm trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die. We don't execute 14-year-olds.
You're putting words in my mouth that I
don't know what you're saying.
I never said deserve to die.
Okay.
I say there are people who die that is unfortunate.
Okay.
But I'm saying that you are not giving Israel credit for having done everything they possibly could to a level that, quite frankly, in urban warfare,
who cares?
There has never been a war.
Like, it's like this guy is saying it's okay for them to do that as long as they drop flyers before. Like, it's moral to murder people as long as you drop flyers saying to get out of that area. Are you kidding me? They're locked in that area, first of all. This is crazy, man.
Criticize Israel, but it's a foreign country, and I would much rather criticize a foreign country than my own.
Feel free to do that. They can handle it.
But you pivoted against our country by saying
I didn't.
Israel's done a better job than our military has.
No, I simply gave you the illustration, and I helped you understand that Israel goes to links that no other country, including ours, goes to in the middle of an urban war, and yet Israel ended up with fewer civilian deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
You said you didn't know how many civilian deaths there were, so how can you say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's numbers.
You said you don't know what the numbers are.
We don't.
You just told me that. Then how can you say it's a lower number?
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 24, 25,000 of those were actual warriors. How many civilians? If you took all of their numbers,
range from 120 to 78. Those are the ones I just read. I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm asking you.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, those numbers I've not heard, have not read. The numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come from?
From the Gaza Health Ministry,
but you said those were invalid numbers.
I think they are. I don't think that they're accurate, but I'm saying
You're saying they're inaccurate, but they prove that Israel's doing a great job?
Let's assume that the most widespread numbers, the largest numbers that have been reported out of Gaza by Hamas, let's assume they're true. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are true, but assume they're true. Let's just take them at their word.
Oh, my God.
Then you still have a lower number of civilians killed than in any urban warfare environment in modern history. Fact.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
What are you comparing it to?
Yeah.
To any urban warfare.
Name one.
Right.
Where in Afghanistan?
How many died?
Where in Afghanistan? There aren't many urban areas in Afghanistan. I don't think there was any fighting in urban areas in Afghanistan.
Kabul?
I don't know. Were there pitched battles in Kabul over long periods of time? I don't.
20 years.
In Kabul? I don't.
Throughout all of Afghanistan.
But what were those rates?
You're talking about what are the rates
He's
there?
trying to say
the number of people who were killed.
They killed
into the tens of thousands.
Less people, but he don't know how many died.
I don't know the answer. I've never heard of any of this. You brought it up. You said the IDF has killed a lower proportion of civilians in urban warfare than in any urban conflict in modern history. I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well,
Would you agree that
the U.S. military killed more civilians.
Would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just again said that the IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did in Gaza. You just told me that. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain to you that there were
he's not used to having to explain
to keep
you
the
don't
number
know the numbers, do you?
I think they were tens of thousands. I'll get them for you.
Well, you brought it up. That's the only reason I'm pushing
But you,
wow.
I'm wearing a flag. I work for a country.
Dude.
And you pretended
this guy
alleged.
This guy is a traitor, man. And he defended himself against that Pollard dude saying, oh, I met him one time in a hotel. And when his wife died, I told him, I sent him a message saying I was sorry for that. That's why I met him, because, you know, he asked to meet me because I was kind to him about his wife one time. It's like, what? That makes no sense, dude. Zero. This guy is a freaking traitor, a straight up traitor.
Loyal to this, and I'm criticizing my own country,
and I'm not. They did a better job than the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, what are the numbers? And you said, I don't know. So on what basis are you making the claim that the IDF in Gaza spared more civilians than the U.S. Army and Marine Corps did in Afghanistan and Iraq? Why are you saying that? Like, on what basis are you saying that?
From the conversations that I've had with the people who fought there. And I don't have the exact numbers for you. But what I'm trying to help you to understand, and I don't think you're willing to go there, is that there was no desire to kill people indiscriminately in Gaza. I don't think there was any desire to kill people indiscriminately in Iraq, Afghanistan,
so
or for that matter,
let me just say, I think, and I know a bunch of people served in the IDF, and I don't believe your average IDF soldier wants to kill innocents. I just want to be really clear about that. I don't think most soldiers want to do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them in our country, in Israel, wind up doing that because that's what war is about, and it really hurts them. And I know people who've done it personally, know them really well, and it like wrecks their lives. So, but I don't think your average soldier wants that in this country or any other. The leadership is a different question, and I want to refer you very specifically to a number of speeches the Prime Minister, your friend Benjamin Netanyahu, gave in the aftermath of October 7th, including one in November of that year, when he referred to Amalek. Now, Amalek is a reference, a biblical reference, of course you'll be very familiar with that. The Amalekites were a tribe described throughout the Bible, particularly in 1 Samuel, that obstructed the Jews as they fled Egypt. And God tells Samuel to give the instructions to Saul to kill the Amalekites. And he says, and I'm sure you remember this is in 1 Samuel 15, of course, I know you know it. He says, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the infants, kill the donkeys, kill the camels, kill everything.
Wow.
And Saul spares the king and he spares the animals. And for that, he is punished by God. That is genocide. God is calling for genocide of the Amalekites, of Amalek. And the Prime Minister of Israel, at least once, I believe on other occasions, described the Palestinians in Gaza as Amalek. That's calling for genocide. And you know that.
Wow,
I totally disagree.
Tell me what it means.
Because to say that Israel was attempting to commit genocide, first of all, that's simply not true.
I'm saying, what is the Prime Minister talking about? Why would he refer to the Palestinians as Amalek? What is Amalek?
You would have to ask him. I don't know. I know what Amalek is. I do understand 1 Samuel 16. I get all
15.
that.
1 Samuel 15.
But I do understand.
And it's widely known. So if you say our enemy is Amalek and we are proceeding on the basis of God's commands to us, you are calling for genocide. Tell me how I'm missing.
It is
something.
Because if Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could have done it in 2.5 hours.
We can debate what's happened in Gaza. I'm asking you why the leader of this country.
Ask him.
What really bothers me, they could have done it in 2.5 hours. It's like, yeah, you're right. And then they would all be dead and they would be crucified. They would be wiped off the face of the earth if they did that. And they know that. They know that. They're not stupid. And he's pretending like, this is 2,000 years ago and nobody would lift a finger if they just wiped all those people off the face of the earth. They know that. So, and they know they can't do that. It's just like when they say, oh, 20%, like Ben Shapiro says, 20% of Israel is Arab. They're Arab. They're Arab. It's like, yeah, you know what it sounds like to me when somebody says 20% is Arab? That sounds like it's like the same thing as people in 1900 South America or Southern America, the southern states, saying we're 10% African. We're 10% African. You know, like in post-Reconstruction South. That's the same thing. It's like, yeah, you are 10% African, but you also lynch those people. You also you can murder them. They have no rights. They get blamed for everything. Like it's like they have a captive population that they keep in their borders so that they can do things and not have to answer for it. And they can have this moral virtue shield. And they think nobody can see what they're doing. They think that we're just straight up Amalek, that we're Goyim. And they think that we can't see this. Like, they're stupid.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know.
Does that bother you at all?
People, I don't know what he meant. I don't know if it was an illustrative metaphor. I think what he was saying was that we're not going to let anything keep us from getting our hostages back, their sons and their daughters who are being brutalized, raped, tortured, starved, beaten.
Come on, Mr. Messer.
No, I think
there are many examples of justice in the Bible. But there are
Israel
very
gets
few...
accused of genocide regularly.
I'm not accusing Israel of anything. I'm saying that the prime minister of Israel described the Palestinians
Do you think he attempted to do genocide?
I'm asking why, of all the references in the Bible, and there are many to justice and there are many to reconciliation, that is a reference to genocide, as you know, killing every man, woman, child, and infant, I'm quoting, and their animals, wiping them from the earth. And when they don't do that, they're punished. When you say that at the outset of a war, and then you wind up with massive civilian casualties, maybe not as big as they were in Iraq.
Oh man, they took it.
Then I have to ask you, what is that? And is that kind of thinking consistent with Western values and with Christianity? Do we as Christians believe it's okay to kill people's children?
No, we don't. And neither do the Israelis, because they didn't go after their children. If they'd have wanted to kill all their children, Tucker, they've got the military capacity. They could have done it in less than a day.
I've heard you say that.
I know.
I mean, I guess
so
they
could have done
them. Okay, but
why didn't they? Why didn't they?
I think there are a lot of decent people in Israel who don't want that. But I'm talking.
Do you think that the prime minister wanted to wipe out every single person in Gaza? Do you
I'm
really
asking
think that?
you what you think is the U.S. representative of our government.
I don't think that that's what he wanted to do.
Did you ask him? Why are you referring?
I never had to ask him that.
Why?
Because I never saw any evidence that Israel tried to wipe out every single person. I just gave you examples that they tried to save civilian lives.
But I'm not,
and
by,
they
by the
didn't.
way, I'm not, as I've said, and I mean this, I think most soldiers in most armies, including the Israel Defense Force, don't want to kill civilians. I just don't believe that. I think there are some lunatics.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
You platformed a guy, you had him on your show, Tony Aguilar.
Don't platform anyone.
Well, you interviewed.
Not a liberal,
Tony
so I don't
Aguilar.
platform people.
Okay, you interviewed Tony Aguilar, who claimed that IDF soldiers killed a little boy in his presence. That didn't happen.
Okay.
It did not happen.
I don't know.
Let me give you the
know
story.
if you know whether it happened or not.
Well, I
mean,
can tell you why I know it didn't happen.
Okay.
Because we found that little boy less than a week later.
All right.
I was involved, heavily involved,
Crazy.
in helping to extricate him from Gaza. 4 different countries were involved in getting he and his mother to safety, get them out of there. Tony Aguilar is a liar.
Okay.
Tony Aguilar claimed that he saw an IDF soldier shoot the little boy. He was fired from the GHF for cause, and he begged for his job back, and they wouldn't give it back because they didn't want him. And he told them that if they didn't give his job back, that he would burn them down.
Okay.
So he goes out. No, let me finish this because it's important for you to understand.
Right.
So this guy then goes out and makes up this story that he witnessed IDF soldiers shooting a little boy.
I don't know that he made it up. He seemed to believe it to me. It's possible he's wrong. I've been wrong many times.
Well, this is a little bit more than just missing a fact. He claimed to be an eyewitness to the murder of a little boy.
Okay.
A little boy that a week later we found.
And you're sure it's the same little boy?
We're absolutely certain.
How do you know that?
Because
Fucking bullshit. I can believe that. Man, that's crazy.
What do I call you?
I usually just go by Clav if you want to keep it chill.
Clav, let's keep
Keep
it
it
chill.
chill.
You're with the number one looks maxer. You know, maybe some of it could be attributed to charisma, to generational run. Would not have been possible without the looks.
You mentioned your charisma. What another phrase is jester maxing.
Self-deprecating humor, you know, someone cracking an egg on their head and saying, oh, look at me, I'm such an idiot or something in front of girls.
I might argue that I'm mogging you.
Let me back up.
Him never having sex with a woman. You were trying to make him look bad.
All I said to him was, do you think you'd be less intense about everything if you just got laid? I was doing a bit of jester maxing. You were in a van singing along to Heil Hitler. Do you regret doing that? Every so often there's a trend or a craze which makes many reasonable people want to turn off the internet, possibly forever, and live in a deserted
Fucking blows my
bar.
mind, dude.
And my
They just put a
cortisol,
block on it.
despite
So
what I read
until
very
I
recently
switch the
about
video,
looks
it's blocked. They're just gonna make it so you can't see nothing. Then when I changed, it didn't even take the stream down. Like, bro, this is wild, man. This is wild, dude. Like, holy crap.
It's the catch-all term for a male-only regimen of intensive grooming
man.
for the purposes
else,
of
dude.
maximizing, in their view, physical attractiveness. Measures may include
Goodness
fillers,
gracious.
facial implants, tongue exercises, or even smashing
We'll leave
in
it here
your
for
own
a second
face,
on
breaking
this
bones
and see what
to
else
make
is
it look
on.
more chiseled. Well, Braden Peters, better known as Clavicular, is the world
Like, why
leading
can I
looks
stream this
maxer.
content
He was
but not
recently
that
profiled
content?
in the New York Times,
Odd.
no less. And he joins me now. Clavicular,
Very
welcome to
odd.
Uncensored.
Thanks for having me, Pierce.
Did you like me called Braden? Clavicular? What do I call you?
Why would he do that?
I
Call
usually
him
just go by
his name?
Clav if you want to keep it chill.
Yeah, instead of being a dick
Clav, let's
face.
keep it chill. So look, I want to start with a clip. This is you talking to Andrew Tate, actually about the prospect of being interviewed by me.
How is it that? Why did Clav even think he needed to look Max? Like, dude's obviously like basically a model. I mean, I know he looked goofier when he was younger, but it's like he didn't even let himself mature, and he starts doing all this goofy stuff to himself. It's just like, dude, if you had just been patient, it would have happened on its own anyhow.
You have any advice for Clav on facing Piers Morgan?
Piers,
Yeah, because
he's not a snake because he doesn't stab you in the back. He stabs you directly in the chest. So he's going to go to war with you. But you know that.
Yeah.
Just keep it cool. He's going to come for you. He's going to interrupt you, try and frustrate you, all this bullshit. But
That's perfect for me. I never.
yeah, I think cortisol stays low.
Cortisol is very low.
Yeah, I think media, Piers, all these people, they all had a lot more power 4 or 5 years ago.
Now, Clav, what I found kind of a bit mystifying about that was, A, that you would be a bit panicky about being interviewed by me because you seem a confident young man. And the second, that you take any advice from Andrew Tate because by definition of what he does and the way he conducts himself, interviews with him are always quite full on, quite confrontational, and so on. I'm struggling, having researched you and your life and what you've built for yourself. I don't really see that you're the same kind of character. And we're going to come to the night that you had with him and Nick Fuentes and those other guys. But you've been positioned with them all as a kind of right-wing headbanger online and so on.
Man.
I'm not entirely sure that's who you are. So we'll come to why that's happened. But why were you slightly apprehensive about doing this?
That video was good. That Tucker interview, that was a really good. He was cooking with gasoline. I mean, he was getting it in, man. Ugh. sucks, dude, that I cannot stream that. Like, that's such bullshit. Bro, that was so fire, man. I, ugh, there isn't a whole lot of content that gets me worked up enough to like stream it, to where I have something to say. I know enough about the subject to interject and stuff. When I'm learning, I don't say shit.
Well, it's just like he said, I think you've run a lot of hit pieces on people. I don't think your production team is fully honest about, sort of why you want to do these interviews. And I think you like to catch people, kind of off guard and make them look bad. But, I don't think you're going to be as hostile towards me because it's like you said, I'm really not a political figure. This is kind of something new that we're discussing. We're discussing something that's more along the lines of self-improvement. That's kind of like a new philosophy. I haven't really seen anywhere on the internet before.
Yeah, I mean, look, in relation to what you just said about what I do, I would take issue with that, as I would with all the people I suppose you're referring to, because I don't set out to be overtly confrontational. I certainly don't set out to gotcha these people, whether it's Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, or whatever. What I tend to do is when they're people who deliberately say inflammatory things, I tend to put those comments back to them. We do our research. The production team that you've slightly maligned there will do a very thorough professional job, and I will put back to them their own words. Now, I will then challenge them about why they said it, the context in which they said it. Do they mean it? Do they really hold these inflammatory views, or are they just winding people up, and so on? But that is the job of a journalist. That's where you and I are different people. We're different animals. I'm a different animal to Fuentes and Tate and the others. They're kind of influencers stroke commentators, and you're in that category, I guess, without much of the commentary. You're a different kind of person. But my job when I interview people like you is just to get to the bottom of who you are, what you stand for, stuff you've done, stuff you've said. Why would you automatically assume that is a kind of gotcha mechanism?
Well, I just assume that because that's kind of, historically what I've seen, right? That's just based off my own experiences.
So you watch my interviews and think I try and trap people?
I think so. I think you deliberately try to make people look bad. Usually people on like sort of the fringe of the right wing, but like I said before, as long as you sort of haven't, automatically aligned me there, maybe we'll be able to have a good interview that's not, just you looking for gotcha clips.
Yeah, listen, I've got no desire to just look for a gotcha clip. I can promise you that.
Like,
I don't think I said that with those other people.
Such a
yeah, I don't think challenging people on what's
such
come
a
out of
good
their
video.
own
I'm
mouths
really
is ever a
bothered
gotcha
that
in relation to the other people you're talking about. They can get quite lively, those interviews, because people tend to
such
not
bullshit.
be challenged like that. In the world that you swim in, it's rare that people like Nick Fuentes or Andrew Tate or others like that, Sneeko and others, that they get directly challenged about what they've said. And they find it a little bit unusual and sometimes a bit unsettling. But the clips that go out, I often think, I see the reaction to them. I'm like, really? You think that I just sit here and I just want to trap?
Sounds to me like Pierce is, he's not trying. He seems like a decent, all right guy in this one. Like but I think this is him, regulating because he got dragged so hard. Like, this is his free market response to his behavior last time. And I'm glad to see it.
People, when all I'm doing is repeating back to them what they've said. I don't think that's a trap. That's just holding people accountable for their own outpourings, right? Which is, like in your case, this is why I'm slightly mystified why you get boxed in with these guys, because I don't see much of a track record of you saying inflammatory right-wing things.
He kind of owns up to stuff, I feel like, Clav.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I would say sort of people don't really know how to handle my ideology, so they want to figure out which political camp I'm a part of so desperately. So there's kind of a struggle to loop me into, specific groups. But it's like I always say, politics are jester. It's not something that I want to involve myself in. It's not something I want to talk about because I just simply don't care. My main pursuit is that of aesthetics and improving my looks to the maximum degree. Using every single mechanism available to me.
Silly
so
kid.
The fact that that's become a political phenomenon just really doesn't make sense to me at all.
Doesn't.
You've done pretty much everything in terms of aesthetics to make yourself look perfect, right? This is your ambition.
That's the idea.
I've done absolutely nothing. I don't even moisturize my face.
Well, we can tell.
I've never had any plastic surgery, never had any Botox, never taken any enhancing drugs, nothing. This is me the way God intended. Do you think when you look at the pair of us that you are more aesthetically appealing than me?
I don't really think it's necessary or beneficial to anyone to sort of, do some comparison, in our looks level, because while most of it can be attributed to self-improvement, there is a big genetic role. So, my entire ideology is more so about improving, not really about comparison too much.
But my argument about that, just generally about the whole self-improvement boom of the last 20 years, is that a lot of people that go down that path end up looking worse than they did to start with. And that actually the best way to look good is not to go down the path of relentless self-improvement, to trust what you were given by the good Lord and to avoid
that's what I was saying.
Doing too much to yourself.
He didn't need to do anything. He was going to be good looking regardless.
Who've just ruined themselves, ruined their faces in the pursuit of what they
perceive
to be aesthetic perfection.
Clav, he's kind of lucky. That's not the case with him. He didn't get cosmetic surgery, but yeah, a lot of people, they get this distorted view of I remember my dad really early when I was like playing football in Mighty Mites at like 9, because I would I guess I was asking about working out or people that worked out, and he was like, people that work out or that they have a really distorted view of their body. And I understand that. I was chubby at one point for a few years, and your idea of how you look can become distorted. It really can. And so, I mean, I understand. I at the time I was like, "What are you talking about?" But as I've gotten older, I realized, wow, thank God he had the foresight to make sure that I wasn't. Or make sure I wasn't getting a complex about anything.
Well, that's because they don't know what they're doing. A lot of them are opting to go with things like filler and Botox, which can, like you said, lead to these botch jobs. You look at guys like, Zac Efron, who have tons of filler in their face and it starts to migrate. It's just not a look that anyone should be pursuing. But looks maxing can be as simple as losing weight, right? So even going on a diet, which I'm sure is something that you've done previously, is part of looks maxing. It's not just these
everybody goes on diets,
plastic surgeries.
When I'm right now, I've got a few extra pounds actually. I've been literally at home all day for like a month and a half, and that's not normal for me. I do hard work. I usually do work climbing trees, so I don't have to think about what I eat. Well, now I do. It's totally. I mean, it's not like cutting back on when you start gaining weight, the logical, the logical step would be, oh, I'm eating too much and I'm not doing enough. So either you do more or you eat less or you get fat.
Or these cosmetic procedures. It's just anything that's going to improve your looks.
Well, I've never been on a diet, one. Secondly,
I
have recently lost 5 kilograms.
Fair enough.
Well, recently I've lost 5 kilograms because I managed to break my femur and have a hip replacement. And so I've not been drinking and I've been eating quite healthily. And it's amazing. The weight just drops off. So I'm somebody who likes to drink. Yeah, well, it's not a diet. It's an enforced regime that's come about.
But that's what a diet is.
Right? So a diet is
splitting
a diet is a
splitting hairs here, man. Come on, dude.
Well, no, it's not, because a diet is a voluntary regime you go into for no other reason than you want to lose weight. I went into an involuntary regime forced upon me by circumstance of a fracture.
A diet isn't about losing weight. It's a regime of eating, because there are people that are on low sodium diets because they have high blood pressure. You know, like there are people that, you know, need high calorie diets because they're sick or whatever. But
how it's forced upon you.
I hate splitting hairs.
Well,
any sort of deviation.
One is voluntary.
No, it doesn't matter if it's voluntary or not. It's a deviation from your normal routine, right? Whether or not you're forced to be in a caloric deficit or not, it's still a diet, you know, like, and, you know, regardless, it doesn't really matter. You've done a calorie deficit before. That can be something that's considered looks maxing. So by definition, Piers, you are a looks maxer. You're just someone who is kind of on the surface level of it, right?
Okay. Look,
I'm saying that in such a competitive dating market, you might need to take it a step further and sort of maybe utilize some peptides, maybe get a little bit leaner than, you know, your current body fat percentage. That's kind of all I'm saying.
Right, but I mean, I might argue that I'm mogging you right now.
Okay, well, you know, that's a fair perspective. Go for it.
Right.
For those who don't know what I've just said, what does mogging mean?
There you go. Yeah, yeah, you're right. People do
basically outshining someone, looking better than them, and there's
people eat differently after they get their jaw broken.
Status
they drink
mogs,
shit through a straw.
You know, money mogs. So, you know, you might have me in those categories, but I think we need to add in a little bit of nuance that it's not a looks mog. You know.
Man,
You would say that you have the edge over me.
Seafood. I didn't know there was a seafood diet.
I think I might have you by just a small margin. I don't know, but that could be attributed to youth, you know. So
yeah, but youth
who knows?
Isn't
back in the day,
youth. A lot of women find the older dude. A lot of women find the older dude more appealing than the old youth. You know.
A cad.
Well, you know, absolutely.
That's not.
But
what
I would say for the most
appealing.
part, looks are an extremely objective thing, and that's sort of what I'm trying to, you know, push people towards realizing is that, well, you might not know these facial ratios that make someone attractive and harmonious or not. They're subconscious, right? And everyone is judging you based off of them, and it's not something that's within anyone's control. So simply being able to identify
Let me just tell
them
everybody,
and improve
it's not the Jews, it's not the Muslims.
Thing.
There was a really good
Okay, well, let's have a look at you before you started all.
There was a really good TYT did a segment earlier with that Carrie Prejean Bowler, the Catholic woman who was kicked off that committee. I think I'm going to do that one after this interview, or whenever this interview is over, or it feels like it's over. I probably do that because you know, Shank and Anna, I don't agree with them on much, but when it comes to Israel, they stick to Israel when they're on that topic, and I down with those two people on that particular thing, and I just kind of wanted to watch in its entirety about that woman, that Catholic woman that got screwed.
Look like now.
He was goofy as hell looking when he was chubby, or when he was short hair.
What age were you in the before picture? Can you see that where you are?
The other one looks fake.
I would have been 16 years old.
And the one on the right is what are you now? You're 20?
Yeah.
So you've been through
that would have been
obviously
when I was
a transformation.
19, I believe.
Okay, so you've been through a big physical transformation. That's clear. Your face has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
So what have you done to your face to look max yourself?
It's a lot of pharmaceutical intervention, especially during puberty, right? So this is going to be the time where it's most important for people to optimize sort of their growth mechanisms and their growth pathways. And, you know, a few of the ways I did this is with exogenous hormones like testosterone, like human growth hormone. I did things like block aromatase, which is testosterone converting into estrogen so that I would actually grow taller. So there's plenty of different mechanisms that I leverage to sort of masculinize myself a little bit more and to become a little bit bigger. So it would just take me so long to go through every little step that I took to looks max.
Okay, but then there's a harder degree called hard maxing, which is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your lingo, not mine, which is often surgical or invasive methods to alter appearance, fillers, implants, plastic surgery. So a more dramatic way to use surgical enhancement. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes.
Have you done much hard maxing to yourself?
Well, a lot of people consider anabolic steroids to be within the hard maxing category. And I've done things like Botox. But in terms of like actual surgical osteotomies, rhinoplasty,
this is kind of
I haven't
dry.
done that. It's just more so about pharmacology.
Hang on.
Have you partaken in mewing, a technique involving specific tongue posture to improve your jawline structure?
Gross.
I have participated in mewing. And the whole idea behind mewing is that it should be your natural
the White
tongue
House
position,
one day, and it was from the designated federal officer who serves at the White House.
Your tongue.
And she told me that some people in the White House were concerned about my posts about Gaza and Israel, and that I needed to stop posting about Zionism, and that I'm not allowed to be an anti-Zionist to be on this commission.
That chick
I thought he cared about religious freedom, and
badass.
so I'm really disappointed in him.
But man, she's got some nice teeth. Like that's all I could see when I look at this woman's teeth. Because when you brought up teeth, I was like, Jesus, man, it made me think of her. I wonder if those are veneers. Because, damn, I mean, I didn't have braces, so like mine ain't perfect. Kind of wish I did, but maybe not. Maybe it's good that I didn't have to deal with it.
In defense of Catholics, who 56% of them voted for him in 2024, but yet the only Catholic female on this commission who dared have the guts to speak out for her faith is now being removed. As you know,
it's pretty disgusting what they did.
Catholic.
Other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and as I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state.
This is ridiculous.
Anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism.
She just basically asked,
by denying the right of the Jews.
If she doesn't believe, if she's not a Zionist, is she anti-Semitic? And this is his answer.
To have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites because they don't?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt.
Well, there has been quite a bit of controversy surrounding the first Religious Liberty Commission panel discussion on anti-Semitism. The fiery woman that you just watched in that video is Carrie Prejean, who has since been fired from this panel entirely. Who fired her? Well, the chair of the commission, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And if you have questions about this story, don't worry, because luckily we have Carrie with us today, and I've got a lot to ask her. Carrie, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
First, let me just say, I give you a lot of credit for being willing to speak out the way that you spoke out during that discussion. It does seem like, when it comes to the topic of religious liberty, one particular religion seems to enjoy that liberty more than others, and that was perfectly illustrated in the exchanges that you had. But I want to start off by kind of getting a better understanding of how you got involved in this commission in the first place.
That's a great question. So I've known the president for almost 20 years now. I was Miss California, went to Miss USA. I'm sure everybody remembers the famous question that I received. Do I believe in gay marriage? No, I don't. Went on to be, one of the conservative darlings on the right. And so the president and I remained friends over the years. I supported him.
It's funny, she owned it.
And so now, fast forward, that was 2009, fast forward to 2024. And, he wins the election. And then I get a call from the White House one day saying, hey, Carrie, we see that you're a new Catholic and we would love for you to serve on the Religious Liberty Commission. The president has appointed you.
It's like they thought she was just going to be a puppet.
By the president, and only the president has the power to remove me.
So, Carrie, there's a controversy as to whether you're actually fired or not, because Dan Patrick says, you dare to have religious liberty, so obviously you can't be on the Religious Liberty Commission.
Good point.
And doesn't note the irony. And you
can't make this up.
Yeah, it's fucked
totally.
up, man.
And we'll get into all the details in a second. But you say that he does not have the power to remove you from the commission. So where do we stand now?
It's funny. She's got smile lines. It's actually kind of attractive.
I think they thought I was just this dumb blonde bimbo, out in California that was a pageant girl that wasn't catechized well in my Catholic faith, recent convert.
She smiles a lot.
She'll just shut up and obey, and she'll just go along with it to, be close to the president and have access. But you know what? My faith and my integrity means more to me than having access to the White House and fancy dinners.
Fuck that.
So yeah, he doesn't have any authority. Dan Patrick is an equal to mine on this commission. He is a commissioner just as I am. And under the executive order, I've done a little bit of research and spoken to several attorneys. Dan Patrick is overstepping his authority. He has zero authority to remove me, just like I have zero authority to remove him. So I'd appreciate, Dan, I know you probably have aspirations to running for president, but you're not the president. So we'll see what the president does about this. But I don't think he appreciates you overstepping your authority, Dan. You're an equal to mine.
Carrie, I gotta say, I'm a little bit astounded by your faith in Donald Trump. Okay, I mean, you've known him for multiple decades, so obviously you know him on a personal level way better than I ever will. But at the same time, he hasn't stepped up to defend you at all. And in fact, his actions in a second term show me that he is willing to carry water for Zionists over pretty much anyone else. But maybe I'm misreading it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm very frustrated. I'm very disappointed that he hasn't come forward yet. I have been told that he is getting tremendous pressure from Zionists, Christian Zionists in particular. Let me just tell everybody, it's not the Jews, it's not the Muslims who are attacking me. It's Christian Zionists. Those are the ones who are attacking me. These people are losing. They're mad that I converted to Catholicism.
They look awful.
And they're mad that I dared to speak out against Israel because that's their...
With all this, it's seeing Israel, what they're doing to the world, what they're doing to us, the way that they're putting the screws on everybody, like they're shutting streams down. They are losing America. They are. They're losing. They used to have a straight up lock on basically white people. I used to think nothing of it. Until, I started thinking about, why do we always get dragged back in as soon as we start to focus on America and start, like with 9/11, we always get like stuff like that, Iraq and shit. Every time we get to take peace dividends, we get dragged back in. And then one day it just finally clicked. When I was watching Nick Fuentes, it clicked that Israel was literally the common denominator that connected all these things. And for like literally a decade, I would wonder, what the fuck? Why do we always get pulled back into the Middle East? Like, what is it? Why do we always get sucked in to a conflict? We live in North America. Like, it's insane. And one day it just clicked, that simple. And I was like, oh my God, those sons of bitches are literally the only reason. And I mean, immediately, like a lot of shit comes unraveled when you realize that. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, you start seeing the puppet strings and the propaganda. It starts sticking out like a sore thumb. It's like and now I recognize propaganda for other stuff. Like it's like liberal propaganda in Hollywood in this 19th or 20th century. It's disgusting how much, like, we're like the most propagandized people on the planet by far, bar none, probably more than the Soviet Union. And it's been going on since World War II.
You can't speak out against Israel. And I am here. I ripped the Band-Aid off. I exposed the elephant in the room. It needed to be done. And it took a 38-year-old mom out of California to do it. So shame on everybody that was on that stage that day that the president appointed to uphold religious freedom. And they decided to keep their mouths shut to protect their businesses, protect their corporations, and to protect their access to the president. So I'm hopeful. It's not over yet. I'm hopeful that the president does the right thing. I know he's getting a lot of heat right now from the Catholics. So we'll see what happens.
I caught your interview with Ryan Grimm today. It was a great conversation. And something that caught my attention was what you had to say about the pressure campaign to get you to resign even before that panel discussion took place. Can you elaborate on that a little for our audience?
It's evil. These people.
Yes,
Control.
so
People are starting to see how much
it's
control.
quite sad, actually.
How much control
I
they
didn't come
have.
forward with this before because I really do believe in religious freedom, and I was honored to be on this commission, and I wanted to do my job, and my job was to protect religious freedom for all, even the religions that I don't hold firm to. So that's really what I was committed to. Well, back up to August, I was starting to speak out about Gaza. I couldn't deny my eyes. I couldn't deny the fact that there were innocent children starving and innocent families slaughtered and bombed, and just the tremendous amount of suffering that I witnessed with my own two eyes. So I started posting. I started talking about it, and I started, posting about what Pope Leo was saying about, the genocide in Gaza. I know he didn't use those words, but I'm using those words because it is a genocide. In fact, the Holocaust.
It damn sure is a genocide.
And so I was posting about it, and I was just spreading awareness. Well, I got a call from the White House one day, and it was from the designated federal officer who serves at the White House. And she told me that some people in the White House were concerned about my posts about Gaza and Israel, and that I needed to stop posting about Zionism, and that I'm not allowed to be an anti-Zionist to be on this commission.
Wow.
Well, fast forward, I told the lady I'm not resigning. There's no reason to resign. And then I see the president at the hearing, the next hearing, and he came up to me and we had an exchange. And he said,
it really is not easy to stand up in front of this withering abuse, the slings and arrows. It's easy. Like, people have been virtue signaling in America about standing up for this and that, but they never actually face any adversity. Today in modern America, it lasts at least since 2016, to stand up against these people. Yeah, that you get the slings and arrows. Basically being canceled, ever since they started canceling people, or since we started thinking of it that way, now people, that is actual adversity. Like, these people will go after you, destroy your life in ways that will hurt. It's not easy to straight up just because we're social animals, it's hard to defy your social group. And then on top of it, you have political shit. It's like, so it's not easy. It ain't easy. So I I'm not, and I've said a lot of, I don't listen to women and this and that, but I admire somebody like this. She has the courage of her convictions, and good on her.
Will you carry?
Which is better than a lot of these, like, people that go to church with a woman pastor, like, weird shit.
Know the real you, and you're staying on this commission, obviously. So he had my back then, and so I'm hopeful that he'll have my back now, and not gonna cave under Zionist supremacist pressure.
All right, it's time for New Year's resolutions. We all make them, but I'm not making any big flashy resolutions that are gonna crash and burn by February. My reset.
Standing up for life. I'm pro-life, and I have every right to stand up for the innocent lives that were being taken in Gaza. And I wasn't going to deny my eyes. And then fast forward from there, Dan Patrick and Paula White called me shortly thereafter, around end of August, early September. And they said, Carrie, you really got to stop posting on social media. Your job here on this commission is protect the president.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not to protect religious freedom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What the fuck,
So
man?
I've got a million questions.
Wow. That's incredible.
First of all, by the way, I want to say before the questions that about a year and a half ago, as the genocide was, already in horrific shape, I started asking, where are the pro-life folks? What happened to all the talk about protecting kids and babies, and not only 20,000 kids, but 1,000 kids under the age of 1, hence babies, right? And something startling happened. The pro-life people showed up. You guys did, and it was beautiful to see. Because there's so much hypocrisy. What I must say in politics.
He normally says, or he always says that nobody on the right, or he basically makes it seem like pro-life people aren't pro-life. And finally, it's just nice to see that thrown back. Like, yo, you're full of shit. Like, people, how they'll condemn everybody on the other side. And like, there's no nuance. It's like, That's bullshit, you know. And I've seen a lot of people point out the genocide shit, you know. It just bothers me how he acts as if that's surprising or something. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
And so for folks like you and Tom Massey and others to come and go, yeah, this is not the pro-life position. This is the exact opposite of the pro-life position.
It's like they pretend or they behave as though we're not sincere interlocutors. And we have to prove we're sincere. They don't. They take liberal or lefties' perspective as sincere regardless. Somebody on the right, they have to prove that they're sincere by sacrifice. It's such bullshit.
For you to stick to your principles, I love that. So and by the way, in America, we're supposed to have freedom to. And so I'm pro-choice, you're pro-life, but at least you're consistent on it. At least you're principled on it, and we agree on
Why would you think they're not
case.
consistent?
Now the logistical questions, because it's important.
You're the one that's not consistent. You're the one that is pro-choice, pro-death, more or less, pro-abortion, and for some reason you give a shit about the Palestinians' lives, but you don't give a damn about unborn children. It's disgusting. What a bastard! Like, bro, you're the inconsistent one. You should be the one that has to prove you're sincere.
Did they tell you in any kind of detail what the commission's mission was supposed to be, or they just said religious liberty, so obviously religious liberty, or was there some instructions involved?
That's a really good question. So they gave us, kind of a rundown of what this commission is supposed to do. So we were supposed to have hearings once a month in Washington, D.C. We're supposed to hear from everyday average Americans like myself who are facing religious persecution and silence for their religious beliefs, which is so ironic. So we've had these hearings since August, and our job as commissioners is to really talk to everyday average Americans. And we're supposed to take notes. We're supposed to write a report. And then in May, at the end of our term, we're supposed to sit down with President Trump. And
you're absolutely right. They're nihilists. These people are disgusting. They're awful people.
Advise him on what he can do to ensure religious freedom.
They hide behind insincerity and virtue signaling, but they're actually awful people.
For all Americans, for all religions.
It doesn't make you a good person because you
I thought he cared about religious freedom. So I'm really disappointed in him so far that he hasn't come out in defense of Catholics who 56% of them voted for him in 2024, but yet the only Catholic female on this commission who dared have the guts to speak out for her faith.
And the fact that
what about you?
That half of the people in Gaza are children. We know that. That, like, man, that hits hard for my mind, to me, for my money.
At different meetings, did people come and say, hey, I'm worried about being persecuted as a Muslim, as an evangelical, as a Christian, as a Jew, as a Buddhist, etc.? Or because in that particular one that we all saw because of the controversy, it was just about
anti-Semitism specifically.
Yes. So there's different topics. So like there's religious liberty in education, there's religious liberty in healthcare, there's religious liberty in the military, there's religious liberty in dealing with anti-Semitism. And I guess they wanted to talk about Israel over 17 times. I'm like, is this a Israel commission? Is this a Zionist commission? What's going on here? This is so fake. This is so pretend that you care about religious liberty when it comes to Jewish Americans. Why didn't we hear from a child who was told that they can't wear the little, yarmulke or whatever it's called? Why weren't we told that some student on a college campus, was told that they can't pray or a Muslim or whatever? Like, why are we hearing about Israel over and over and over again?
Exactly.
It's nauseating.
What the fuck?
It's getting so
Sons
old.
of bitches.
And I knew at this hearing, because they tried to do an intervention and all the backstory with them trying to fire me back in August, I knew that this was going to be a pivotal moment, a turning point for our country. And I had to speak up,
hot, dude.
especially
what are you gonna do, right?
for my Catholic faith. Because what they said on that stage is that if you're not a Zionist, you're an anti-Semite. You're a hateful bigot. That was the statement that they made. And I will tell you, I reject that that is hatred towards Catholicism.
You just got good fucking
and
genes,
I, as a
man.
Catholic, am deeply offended, and so
Got
many
good
Catholics
genes.
are. We are the furthest thing from filled with hate. We are the furthest thing from being bigots. All we want is to stand up for our religious freedom and reject Zionist supremacy, because
they're just really used to Christians rolling over and turning the other cheek and taking it and taking it. They're used to Christians letting Muslims rape their kids. Like in England, I mean, it's a damn shame. And that's what I was saying about my little brother, like not standing up for himself and like inspire and getting his friends not to go, like to stand up and say, this is Zionist bullshit and walk out. Because all the guys in the community are his homeboys. And it's like, bro, this is your chance to be a leader, man. And be like, fuck this. We're going somewhere else, or I'm going to start my own shit. Like, this is the problem. It's like everybody, they think somebody else, and everybody, I want to be a leader, or I love leaders. I wish somebody would do something. I wish this, I wish that. It's like, bro, you want to know what the people did in the history to make history? They fucking stood up for shit. And it's like, nobody today, they just think somebody else will stand up. It's like, dude, we're fucking dying out because of your shitty, complacent attitude, and it was, it's because it's my own brother. I'm like, dude, I know you're better than that. Why the fuck do you have you will not fucking put your head above the parapet? What is it that you have that's so precious that you're not willing to give it up? Like, for real. Ugh.
As Catholics, we don't believe that Israel today has anything to do with Israel of the Bible, okay? Christianity has been hijacked by evangelical Christian Zionists, and it's time we take Christianity back. They don't speak for me. I don't wave the Israeli flag, okay? I stand for freedom, and I stand for my religious freedom in this country to say whatever I want.
Yeah, what I thought was really, really important to kind of focus on from the whole controversy is the fact that you kept trying to make the point that Zionism is not the same as Judaism, right?
Yes.
Discriminating against people for being Jewish or for having, Judaism as their faith. Yeah, that is wrong. But Zionism,
I reject that.
Yeah, Zionism is a political ideology. That's what it is. It's a political ideology.
No, they don't want you to believe that. They don't want you to believe that. They want you to equate Zionism, a political ideology, racist political ideology. Okay, I've done a lot of research since then. And I have learned so much about how the founding of Israel was created, the 700,000 innocent Palestinians that had to be displaced, many of them slaughtered, their houses were overtaken. No, I reject the fact that they think that they can just commit a genocide because they're God's chosen people. No, the Catholic Church actually teaches that the church is the new Israel, okay? So if you're catechized well, that's what you know, and that's what you should be saying.
Yeah, so along those lines, I mean, because there's rabbis who are against Zionism because they say it's nationalism and that will corrupt our religion. It'll corrupt Judaism. And so they're against it. In fact, you asked about that, Carrie, and you asked if a rabbi who was against Zionism, and you quoted the rabbi, was anti-Semitic, and they said yes. That's absurd. That's so absurd,
yeah,
right?
It's crazy.
So I
Everybody's
love that
an
question.
anti-Semite. I guess everyone's an anti-Semite now. If we're all anti-Semites, even a Jewish rabbi is an anti. This is absurd. I reject it. It's insanity. Okay.
So absolutely. What I was going to say is, since it's nationalism, it's like saying, hey, we're doing a religious liberty commission and none of you are allowed to disagree with Turkish nationalism. You'd be like, wait, what? Why do I have to care about Turkish nationalism? And why was that related to religious liberty? But when it comes to Israel, they're like, yeah, of course. That makes sense. It doesn't make any sense. And so has Dan Patrick ever explained, like, or addressed the fact that he's taking away your religious liberty while heading the Religious Liberty Commission?
He is so reckless, and I think that he thought he was so tough by going online and saying, this is my choice, I'm removing her. Cool, Dan, you're not a tough guy. You look like a big loser right now, Dan. Catholics are furious with you. Christians are furious with you. People of all faiths are furious with you. Because if you deny, yeah, go ahead.
No, besides which, I mean, I don't really understand how Christian Zionists reconcile their so-called pro-life stance while fully standing by Israel as they mass slaughter children in Gaza.
Because people aren't aware,
and further victimize, by the way, people in Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. But when you talk about how you value human life, I'm so curious what your thoughts were after you had this exchange with my personal favorite, Shabbos Kestenbaum. And I'm being sarcastic, but nonetheless, this exchange, for whatever reason, no, I know exactly why, really got under my skin. So we're gonna play it for the audience, and then I wanna get your thoughts. What was going through your mind as he was saying this? Let's watch, and then I'll get your thoughts.
Since we've mentioned Israel a total of 17 times, are you willing to condemn what Israel has done in Gaza?
No, because I unilaterally reject that it's not a genocide. The only genocide ever carried out was on October 7th when Hamas tried killing every man, woman, and child they could possibly find.
70,000 innocent civilians killed?
Let me respond. So
she takes him up through there, too.
You won't condemn that?
And Carrie,
just on the record.
He's already, excuse me,
okay.
As chair of the committee,
I think it's important we have this discussion.
I agree. I'm happy to answer.
And Carrie,
I think we'd be great friends.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer.
Carrie, we have had the discussion. Good questions.
Yeah, we have told
good
you
answers.
to get in line.
This is a commission on religious liberty. If there's another commission on this issue,
I don't know why we're talking about a foreign country.
You didn't even frame the question with the word genocide. You just asked him to comment on whether or not he was okay with what Israel carried out in Gaza. And as we all know, Gaza has been totally flattened. Okay, tens of thousands of innocent people slaughtered. Number is very likely higher than that. They're not allowing international journalists into the Gaza Strip so they can do reporting on the ground. We just have to take Israel's word for it when it comes to information on what's happening there. What was going through your mind as you heard Shabbos argue that what happened on October 7th was a genocide, but what Israel has carried out in Gaza is not?
Yeah, I was really trying to just stay calm and stay on the facts, and I was wanting my questions answered. That's why I asked a lot of questions, and all I said was, there's over 70,000 innocent Palestinians that have been slaughtered. What do you have to say about that? And he's like, no, it's not a genocide. It's not a genocide. Okay, so you think that October 7th was a genocide, but killing 70,000 innocent Palestinians wasn't a genocide?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. And his argument, I mean, you could see how nervous.
They try to say, oh, but they did this. It's like, yeah, that was 1,200 people that got killed by a couple of madman butchers. Some disgusting people. What? So you're blaming these people who didn't do that. And you're going to take it, you're going to punish them because the guys who did it, you didn't hunt them down individually like you should with the police or something. You went after other people. They just used it as an excuse. I think it was obviously false flag or something because they wanted this to happen. They were I believe 100% that was allowed to happen. And that son of a bitch Netanyahu, that was him taking advantage of the butchery of his own people. And our country does the same type of shit. And so does Europe. But like, I don't understand how some people like, they can't see it. Or I mean, once you wake up, why you wouldn't be able to see that? Like, this guy he really is kind of rabid, he has a bloodlust. I mean, it's conquest, it's bloodlust. They finally they realize, oh, we've got the ability to take stuff. Even though we're less than 1% of the world, we can take shit. We got somebody else that's gonna hold them down for us. And it's so disgusting. And everybody thought we were past this kind of shit. They try to say they're the West. It's like, no, you're not. Or you wouldn't be fucking trying to subjugate your neighbors. That's not Western behavior. It's just not.
I mean, I feel so bad. He was talking so fast, he couldn't even, and then he was telling the guy next to him to be quiet, and then Dan had to interject.
Really?
It was just a circus. It was completely chaotic. Enemy. And shame on the chairman for interrupting, because I do think that these questions were very important and answering them. I mean, if this topic is on anti-Semitism, I wanted to define what is anti-Semitism. And I brought up the IHRA definition, which is deeply concerning as a Christian, that certain parts of the Bible are considered anti-Semitic speech. And I read the verses in the Bible that says the Jews killed Jesus. So if someone says that, what are you gonna do? Arrest them? Put them in jail? I mean, where does this lead to, you guys? This is very dangerous. This is serious.
Yeah, so look, for me, I got no dog in the fight about who killed Jesus, right? But I do have a dog in the fight about American rights, First Amendment rights, free speech rights, religious liberty rights.
Yeah.
So, so in the case of October 7th that Shabbos mentioned, as you're pointing out, basically Israel did 70 October 7ths.
Yep.
But they said that doesn't count.
That doesn't count,
all right,
right?
That's a difference of opinion. No big deal in America. Everybody gets to say their opinions. But you made a great point. Wait, we're talking about religious liberty, but you guys introduced the topic of Israel. Not Kerry didn't, they did, right? And they introduced this 17 different times. And the point was our religious liberty, in their case, they're claiming to speak for Jewish Americans, right? They're saying our religious liberty means that you cannot have your religious liberty.
Exactly.
You cannot say anything against Israel because, as the guys you were questioning, I think they were rabbis, but I'm not sure, were saying, yeah, you are not allowed to demonize Israel. That's considered anti-Semitic, so you will be made to shut up if you do that. If you have a double standard, but what's a double standard? They think everything's a double standard.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you're against Zionism, but you're not against other ethno-states. That's not true. I'm against all ethno-states. How do you know what's in my head? But shut up, shut up, shut up was the theme. So then that made me question, wait, what's the point of this commission? Going full circle. Are they going to write a report saying that Americans should shut up and should never criticize Israel because that means you're taking away religious liberty from Jewish people, or some ludicrous thing like this? Was this all a front just to be able to tell Americans, shut up about your religions, only
you have to defend Israel. You have to defend Israel and be in support of Israel. Otherwise, you're an anti-Semite. It seems like that was the only takeaway from the first panel discussion. And that's insane. I think that's crazy.
It is.
Yeah, it is crazy. And prior to even me getting on this commission, I had been posting about Israel and Gaza before I even was hired. So, I mean, none of my statements have changed. I've always been pro-life. I've always, spoken out about what was happening since October 7th. And what I don't understand is you can say what happened on October 7th to innocent civilians is wrong. And you can also say that killing over 70,000 innocent Palestinians, starving them to death and destroying the entire, Palestinian land there is a genocide, and it's wrong. And if you can't say the two, something's really wrong with you. And my point is that the other side, I requested 4 Jewish Americans to speak at this hearing. I requested 2 Palestinian Christian groups to speak at this hearing on anti-Semitism. Who better than Norm Finkelstein? I suggested him. He was denied. Oh, Dan Patrick didn't want him anywhere near this commission. He's the wrong type of Jewish American. He's not a Zionist Jew. That's the problem. So Nico Palad, he's a pro-Palestinian. He was denied. Rabbi Shapiro, he was denied. Oh, you want to label me an anti-Semite? No, you guys are anti-Semites because you don't want the full story. You just want the Zionists. That's all you want. Zionist supremacists.
Hell yeah.
And that is, again, it's not about religion, it's about nationality. So they're saying, I don't care if you're a Jewish American, a Catholic American, or whatever you are not allowed to speak out against Israel. That takes away the religious beliefs of the rabbis that you mentioned, let alone everyone else. So again, I come back to, what is the point of this commission?
It's a fraud. It's a fraud. It should be shut down. Every American should be calling for this religious liberty to be completely shut down. Because I was actually looking forward to meeting with the president in person in May and telling him what I feel about how Christians in Palestine, Muslims in Palestine, I mean, they are being slaughtered and nobody's doing anything about it. And we're funding this as Americans. And yet me as a Catholic American, I'm not allowed to say that a genocide is wrong that we're funding. You want to bomb the only Catholic church in Gaza and claim that that's okay? And nobody in our government says a word about it?
Yeah,
shame on them.
That's the final question for me, at least. How do so-called Christian Zionists in America see the footage, the photos, the way Christians are treated by Israel, and think that that's okay? You know, they get spit on. There's a Armenian community in Jerusalem. There's the Armenian Quarter. They get discriminated against. They get harassed by Israeli settlers all the time. Their area is now kind of under threat as Israel seeks to take it over. And so how do Christian Zionists, again, defend that? How do you defend that as a Christian? I don't understand.
Here's what it is. I've thought long and hard about this. They cannot defend it, but you know what? Their allegiance, and they worship money and power and fame more than they have a soul. They are not willing to speak out because they're owned. They're slaves. They're not free people. Every single person on that stage that day was too afraid to get involved in this discussion. If they really cared about religious freedom, all of them would have stood up and said, you know what? Carrie's right. She's not an anti-Semite for being against Zionism. Her Catholic theology doesn't support Zionism, a political new ideology that was established in 1948. Give me a break. If they really had courage, they would have done that, but they didn't because they're too worried about their money and their access and their big organizations. That's what I'm disappointed in. I'm disappointed in all those people, all those well-established people. I'm just a little mom in California that dared to have the courage to stand up for my faith. And millions of Catholics from across this world who support me and say, thank you. Thank you. You actually are the only one on that stage on Monday that cared about religious freedom. And you were willing to be fired because of it. And yes, I was.
Yeah, so last couple of things for me. And by the way, you're a regular American. That's why you actually have more credibility, not less credibility. Because those well-established guys, whether they're politicians or they're pastors, have been taking money from the Israeli lobby for decades. So like they're literally bought by this foreign government, and then they tell their own parishioners, you are to shut up and obey this foreign government. But what's more troubling is what you said earlier about how people from the White House kept calling you and telling you not to criticize Israel even before this happened, right? So that means our government is compromised. And the reason I say that is, if our government has cooked up a religious liberty commission to take away religious liberty and force everyone to basically have allegiance to Israel, that means that's not our government.
No, it's not. And you know what? It breaks my heart. I've spent over 15 years, almost 20 years, you guys, defending this president. I've spent countless hours and arguments with family and friends and spent time away from my children. And this president wants to appoint me on the Religious Liberty Commission because he trusts me. He knows my past. He knows that I'll always stand for what's right, regardless of the consequences. And yet he doesn't trust me, that I know what I'm talking about, and that I have every right to say what I said on that stage.
I was watching a different conversation you had with Lila Rose, and you talked about your conversion from Protestant to Catholicism, and it's so obvious that you've done your due diligence and you care deeply about, the religious doctrine, and you understand it really well. So I give you a lot of credit for that because you're not an actor. This isn't some attention-seeking stunt. This is something that you clearly care about, and I remember covering, your views on gay marriage. And obviously we disagree with you on that.
And that's fine.
But that video was from a long time ago. So you've held these beliefs for a while now, so.
Yeah, and it's called America. We're allowed to state our opinions. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to have any religious beliefs we like. And for me, I'm an atheist and I want to protect religious belief more than anyone does. Because we're gonna be the first one on the chopping block if religious beliefs are, if freedom is taken away. And so, I mean, that's why part of why we love this country. But so since I'm an atheist, I got one last question for you. You say that it's your Catholic belief to not be in favor of Zionism. So help me understand that. Why is that?
Okay, so I as you can tell, I didn't think we were going to get into a theological discussion at an anti-Semitic hearing, but that's where it went. So to make it very clear, so Christian Zionists, mostly evangelicals, believe that in order for the second coming of Christ to come, there needs to be the Dome of the Rock in Israel needs to be torn down, and that there needs to be a rebuilding of the temple, of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. So what do you think that means? That means that they've been brainwashing Christians to hate Muslims because we need to cheer on that, Dome of the Rock being torn down, so that way they can build the third temple, usher in the second coming of Christ.
Such bullshit.
And then they believe that Jesus is going to reign in Jerusalem for 1,000 years. I mean, you guys, this theological supremacy, our founding fathers are probably rolling in their graves right now. This is not what our founding fathers wanted. They didn't want, yes, our nation was built on Christian principles, obviously. But guess what? They did not want one church, one specific, denomination of Christianity to be ruling every state. And so I'm telling, and I don't want to get too much into the theological aspect of it, but that's the Christian Zionist perspective. And
dispensationalism,
so
right?
Yes, dispensationalism. It's the Ted Cruz. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. They think that the modern state of Israel, that is the biblical fulfillment prophecy, that, we all need to cheer that on, that was God's plan to bring them back to the land. No, we reject that as Catholics. We actually believe that we are the new Israel, that we are the new people of God. The old covenant is now fulfilled in the new through Christ. That, the promises made from the old are now fulfilled in the new, and that we are the new people of God. It's very simple. And Jesus will come again. That's our belief, that he will come again to judge the living and the dead. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I grew up in the
Christianity.
I grew up in the Apostolic Church, Armenian Apostolic Church, which is very similar to Catholicism. I've learned, and we learned the same thing in Sunday school. So dispensationalism, like I learned about that a few years ago, and I was like, I've never heard of this in my life. Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is they think in the end, the Christian Zionists think in the end that 2/3 are going to be cut off. The Jews. So there's basically going to be a second Holocaust. This is what they believe, you guys. This is
crazy.
Theological insanity. And they've hijacked Christianity, and they do not represent us, real Catholics who've been around for 2,000 years. And this is not what the church has taught, and we reject Zionism. Yes, we are for the Jewish people to, live and let live. But guess what? We don't agree that 1948 Israel has any biblical fulfillment prophecy whatsoever. And I challenge any Catholic to challenge me on that.
Yeah, there's no question. It's not in the Bible. There's no United Nations in 1948. It's absurd. All of it is absurd. All the so-called predictions of the dispensationalists are not in the Bible either. It's invented. In fact, look, I don't know why they decided to write those particular prophecies. I don't know if Israel was clever enough to guide them in that direction. I don't know. But what I do know is you just explained to us your deeply held religious beliefs. There's no one can argue about that. And they're saying you cannot think those things, because if you do, we're gonna label you an anti-Semite, and then consequences will flow from you being labeled an anti-Semite. So this commission is undoubtedly to take away religious liberty. And I keep asking why? Why in a country that is about 70% Christian is the president of the United States, with his voting base being largely Christian, saying you do not get to have your religious beliefs if it interferes with Israel's political agenda? It's stunning in the year 2026 in America.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is stunning. It is stunning. And I don't know if they thought I would just shut up and obey and just go along to get along and have access, but they obviously don't know me, because I'm not one to back down from the truth, and I will always stand for my religious freedom to stand up for what I believe in and not be punished for it. And let me just tell everybody, I'm not paid to be on this commission. I don't know if everybody knows this. This is volunteer. I am not paid. They pay for my flights and they pay for my hotel, and that's it. So I am serving the American people. I am the only one so far on this commission that is willing. Nobody's even spoken out about this. Why? Because they're too afraid. They're too afraid of the backlash. They don't want to be called an anti-Semite.
Totally.
They don't want to be called a bigot.
So cowardly.
Oh, but they want to hide behind me. I have calls and texts. Keep doing what you're doing. I support you. There's people in the White House that support you, but they're too afraid. They call you the GOAT. Really? Well, why aren't you speaking out? You want me to take the heat for all of you?
They do. And you know what? It takes a special kind of person, I would know, because I think I'm one of them, to continue speaking out, knowing that you're gonna face some serious consequences. I've had family members harassed.
That's so gross.
Their jobs threatened. They're not even political figures or members of the media. So I know, the stakes here, and I really commend you for not just talking the talk, but walking the walk when it comes to your faith.
Your faith.
And
your faith.
Even more than that, the fact that you know the difference between right and wrong. Because right now we're living in a climate where people are being pressured to support something that we all know is wrong, and that's the mass slaughter of innocents. So thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, I'm gonna double down on that. And it's so when regular people email you or whatever it might be, send you a note and say, hey, thank you for fighting for us. That's beautiful, right? When people inside the government do it, well, number one, they're using you as a human shield, and that's weird.
And they have the power to change things.
Cowardly. But number two, the more disturbing fact is, why are people inside the American government so afraid to speak out against Israel? That they need a random mom to do it because
it's fucking disgusting.
Because if they do it, presumably they'll be fired. So is this our government or is it Israel's government?
That's what I want to know. It's a great question. I want to know, who are we? What is going on? Why are we talking about Israel? I told them at the intervention meeting at 7:30, they had an intervention meeting before the hearing went on, and Dan Patrick was panicking, and Ben Carson was there and Paula White, and they were like, we don't know what Carrie's gonna say. And they sat me down and they're like, you better not, disrupt this meeting. And I'm like, well, are we gonna talk about Israel? Because if you talk about Israel, I'm gonna talk about Gaza. So if you don't talk about Israel, I won't talk about Gaza. But they couldn't do it because they've brainwashed people, Christians and many other groups, to worship Israel. And like I said, I would rather die. I would rather die than worship Israel, a genocidal state that is committing genocide against innocent Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's wrong, and I reject that. And it feels so free, you guys. I honestly feel so free. I'm no longer in chains.
Yes.
I'm no longer in chains. And you know what? I wasn't. I continue to post and I continue to tell them, and I have the emails to prove it. I have the text to prove it. I have all the receipts. I reached out to many people on the commission and I said, hey, they're trying to silence me for my religious beliefs. What do you think about this?
Yeah. No, Americans.
Quiet.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Americans don't bow, and they're demanding that we bow, and we're not going to bow. And Carrie's right. The minute you liberate yourself and say, I'll say whatever I want, you're not gonna stop me from criticizing any foreign nation. I don't care if it's Israel or any other nation. And this has nothing to do with religion other than you taking away my rights. So look, I want the audience to understand that's what the face of courage looks like. So Carrie, we really, really appreciate you joining us and for fighting the good fight on behalf of all Americans.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you guys.
Every time you ring the bell.
Terrorist Israeli settlers have slaughtered yet another.
Anyhow, I'm just gonna call it for the night. Hopefully, maybe Nick will do something this weekend. I don't know, but I appreciate